Welcome to Stonewatch, and today we're talking about 2021's comic book movies and where do they rank. And if you haven't already, please smash the subscribe button and click on that bell so you can notify for future videos. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And wow, man, it is now 2022, so a Merry New Year to you all. I don't care what anybody says, that never gets old. I love Trading Places. That movie is an all-time classic as far as I'm concerned. Now, looking back at all the cool comic book movies we got in 2021, I started to wonder, where these would all rank. Now, my list is going to be probably a lot different than yours, but that's okay because all film is subjective and I'm going to see things and hear things that you don't and vice versa, right? But as long as we agree that these are good, fun movies, then we're all cool, right? So I did not base any of my rankings on how well these movies did at the box office because one movie didn't even go out to the box office as far as I know, and the rest were all being released on some streaming service somewhere the same day that they were released, and the rest were all just dealing with this post-pandemic era that we've seen to find ourselves in, wave after wave after wave, and it doesn't seem like it's ever going to end, but that's a topic for a whole nother video, and I don't really talk about that stuff here on this channel. But anyway, I will bring up how much they made at the box office, mainly just for context on how well the movie did this year, but it was not any basis on how I ranked them. I did it how it landed with me, how I felt after watching the movie, and how many times I actually went back to go see the movie. You know what I'm saying? So let's just dive right into it. Number 7, The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, released on August 6th of 2021. Now, I thought this movie was actually pretty good for the most part, but there were some spots on it that I just did not care for whatsoever. But this is also one of those movies that was released on streaming service the same day it was released in the theaters. I myself did opt to go watch it on HBO Max instead of going into the theaters to see this one, mainly because I'm not really sure why I did, but that's how I did it. And would it have been better on the big screen? Maybe. It doesn't make the story any better, right? But it probably would have landed a little bit better had it been on the big screen. So I don't know. I did like it. I did like it way more than the first Suicide Squad, to be quite honest with you. There are a lot more funny parts in this, and James Gunn is an awesome director. I'm not saying this movie is terrible. It was pretty damn good, but it just wasn't my favorite comic book movie of the year. I'm sorry. Now, with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 90% and an audience score of 82%, with its total box office $167.4 million, it's probably safe to say, at least box office-wise, there's not going to be another Suicide Squad with James Gunn. Maybe when Warner Brothers gets taken over by Discovery here later on in this year, maybe that'll change with the new owners. Maybe they'll say, hey, this movie was affected by being released on HBO Max the same day it was in theaters, because maybe it would have done better box office-wise if that option wasn't there. If that option wasn't there for me, I probably would have gone and seen it in the theaters. You know what I'm saying? Number 6, Justice League, The Snyder Cut, directed by Zack Snyder, released on March 18th of 2021. Now, this went straight to HBO Max with no theater release whatsoever, even though I think it was released in the select theaters for like one day when this thing first kicked off, but it wasn't here in Michigan, so I did not see it in the theater. I saw it on HBO Max, and I'm kind of glad I did, because this thing was originally supposed to be a 6-part miniseries, and it just turned out to be a really long movie. 4 hours long. I barely made it through 3 hours of Endgame before I had, you know what I'm saying? I'm glad I got to watch this at home, because then I could actually pause it and go to the bathroom whenever I wanted to and not have to worry about missing anything. Because if I'd have saw this in the theater, I know for a fact I had done that, and I really hate doing that when I spend that kind of money to see a movie in the theater. I don't like to leave my seat once the movie starts, you know what I'm saying? Now, I did like this one a lot better than the 2017 version, but there were certain scenes in that 2017 version that I liked quite a bit, and I missed it when I did not see it in this movie. I understand why it wasn't in there, because it was stuff that Zack Snyder didn't do, so it wasn't part of his cut per se, so I understand why it was there, but I did miss it when I was watching this movie. Now, Justice League, The Snyder Cut, is sitting with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 71% and an audience score of 94%. But without a box office, I doubt there's going to be any more Snyderverse movies on later on down the road. But who knows? Maybe that could change again once the ownership of Warner Brothers changes later on this year to Discovery. So we have to wait and see. Number 5, Eternals, directed by Chloe Zhao, released on November 5th of 2021. Now, I did like this movie, even though it was very different from any other MCU movie that I've seen so far up until this point. There was a lot of things that happened in this movie where I was wondering, how is this going to affect the rest of the MCU? You know what I mean? Because we're dealing with cosmic scale stuff, especially with that Arsham dude to say he was going to come back and lay judgment. I mean, I wonder how that's going to all play out. Now, I did like this movie, but this was not my most favorite comic book movie of this year. Eternals is sitting with a Rotten Tomato score of 47% and an audience score of 78%, which still makes it the lowest scoring movie of the MCU ever. Now, its total box office as of right now is $401.4 million. Now, normally I would say that's going to be like not going to get a sequel, but I think it probably will because this is the MCU and they're taking into account the whole fact that this still is a post-pandemic era, and maybe that's what they'll base their decision on, whether or not to make an Eternals 2, or that's part of their plan anyway. Number 4, Black Widow, directed by Kate Shortland, released on July 9th of 2021. It was also released on Disney Plus for a premium price of $30. Now, myself personally, I refuse to pay $30 to rent a movie unless I get to own it. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's just a digital copy, I need to own it. I am not paying $30 to watch a movie. I paid $20 to watch Bill and Ted's 3, and it was only me. So, I mean, if it'd be like a lot more people, like 4 or 5 of my friends all pitching in, maybe. But myself personally, I'm too cheap for that stuff, man. So I opted to go to the theater, which I wanted to go see it in the theaters anyway, and I'm glad that I did. I had a great time. This movie was a lot of fun. It had a big, huge feel of like a Captain America and Winter Soldier. Not as good as that movie, but it still had that kind of like political thriller feel to it. You know what I'm saying? So this movie was a lot of fun. But I went into this movie thinking that nothing's going to happen to Natasha Romanoff because this is a prequel that takes place between Civil War and Infinity War. So we all knew that she was going to be in Infinity War and Endgame, and we don't know how that all ends for her in Endgame, right? So, I mean, this movie was a lot of fun. David Harbour as the Red Guardian was totally awesome. I am so down to watching a Red Guardian series on Disney Plus. I'd watch the hell out of that. You know what I'm saying? And we also got that really cool credit scene with Yelena and DeFonte setting her up to go up against Hawkeye in the Hawkeye series, which just came out here last November, which was all right. I mean, it could have been a little bit better, but for the most part, it was kind of cool. Now, this movie is sitting with a Rotten Tomato score of 79% and an audience score of 91%. So the audience liked this movie a lot more so than the critics did, and it made a total of $379.6 million. Now, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was released on the Disney Plus for an extra $30, and most people opted to watch it on Disney Plus for $30. Why would you do that? I'm not really sure, but a lot of people did because I think it made like the $60 million on Disney Plus opening weekend. So I don't know, it is what it is. Now, they're probably not going to make a sequel to this movie because it was a prequel, and spoilers, Black Widow dies in Endgame. So you can't make a Black Widow 2 when there is no Black Widow. Number 3, Venom Let There Be Carnage, directed by Andy Serkis and released on October 1st of 2021. Man, I had so much fun with this movie. I really did like the first one, and when I found out there was going to be a Venom 2, I was so geeked. And when I found out that Andy Serkis was going to direct it, I'm like, man, that's so badass. But I'll be honest, I didn't know anything else that he's directed, so I didn't have much to go on. But it was awesome nonetheless. I love the dynamic between Eddie and Venom, even though it was basically the same thing that we got in the first one, but they went a little bit more further into it. I thought that was pretty damn cool. Woody Harrelson and Tom Hardy were both awesome in this movie. Woody Harrelson was totally insane in this movie. I don't know much about the character that he actually played, but I thought he did a pretty damn good job. If anyone could play a good psycho, it's Woody Harrelson, right? So he did an awesome job. I love him in this movie. I don't know. It was only like an hour and a half long, which was kind of cool. And we had that really kick-ass credit scene that I thought was going to pay off in No Way Home, and it really kind of bummed me out. It didn't. Unless there's more to it than I don't know about. Maybe it's going to pay off in a Venom 3 or maybe in another Spider-Man movie. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, this movie is sitting with a Rotten Tomato score of 58% and an audience score of 84%. So the audience is definitely liking this movie way more than the critics. Its total box office as of right now is $501 million. So I think the budget was like 110, so it could probably see another movie, and I think there is going to be another movie, so we'll just have to wait and see. Whether or not if it's going to include Spider-Man or not, it's a whole nother story. Number 2, SpiderMan No Way Home, directed by John Watts, released on December 17th of 2021. Man, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I thought John Watts found a perfect blend of fan service and great storytelling. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were so damn awesome in this movie. Hell, the whole entire cast was pretty much awesome in this movie. You know what I'm saying? All the villains were pretty damn cool. It's really hard to pick which one you like more than the other, even though it's kind of tied between Doc Ock and Goblin. That's all probably personal preference as far as that goes. Aunt May's death scene was really heartbreaking, but I'm sorry, man. I'm just not a huge fan of the multiverse thing, even though I am looking very forward to Doctor Strange into the multiverse to see how they wrap this whole entire thing up. Because Kevin Feige said, I believe at Comic-Con back in 2019, that WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2 are all going to have an overlaying story arc within those three properties. So I'm kind of wondering how they're going to wrap that all up. If they're going to wrap it all up, because we know that Kang is going to show up in the Ant-Man and Wasp into Quantumania, right? So I don't know if the whole multiverse thing is going to stop with Doctor Strange. I kind of hope it does, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, Spider-Man No Way Home is still sitting with a Rotten Tomatoes score at 94% and an audience score at 98%. So everybody's still loving this movie, and the box office shows it. You know what I'm saying? Because as of right now, it's sitting with a total box office of $1.2 billion. That's with a bay, right? So it's made a lot of money. It's really shocking that any movie was able to make this kind of money in the era that we find ourselves in. But Spider-Man found that formula, or it was released in that sweet spot right around Christmas time, right? Maybe that had a lot to do with it. I mean, almost all the Star Wars movies benefited by being released around Christmas time, except for one, because they put that one out in May. Sorry, Soul. Hashtag make Soul 2 happen. But anyway, I mean, this movie was a lot of fun. I'm waiting to see where they go with the story with this. I hope it'll still be within the MCU. But if it's in the Spider-Verse, that'd be kind of cool too. We'll just have to wait and see. And finally, number 1, ShangChi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, released on September 3rd of 2021. Man, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I really love this movie. I've seen it 5 times now. Now, granted, only once was in the theater and the rest were all on Disney+, but I loved it nonetheless. I mean, it gets better every single time I watch this movie, and I can no longer hear the words and not think about drunk karaoke. How about you? Let me know in the comments down below. I mean, I love the dynamic between ShangChi and Katie. I thought that was so damn awesome. Like that friendship bond that they had, even though they weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. I think that was pretty damn cool. Now, I'll admit, I knew nothing about the comic book lore about this movie going into this, but Destin was able to show me what I needed to know, and I did not feel lost at all. I mean, I think that Tony Leung-Chiu was awesome in this movie. I mean, even though I'm not familiar with anything else that he's done, he was so damn awesome in this movie. And the fact that they brought in that Ben Kingsley Trevor character from Iron Man 3 into this, I thought that was hilarious. I mean, that was perfect in how they blended him into this story too. I mean, they didn't overpower it, but I thought it was pretty damn funny that they brought him into this. I mean, again, I love this movie. I can watch this movie over and over again, and it never gets old. Now, currently, ShangChi is still sitting with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 91% and an audience score of 98%. So the critics and the audience is still loving this movie. Now, with a total box office of $432.2 million, most of the time I say they probably are not going to get a sequel to this movie considering how much they spent on the budget. But they've already greenlit a ShangChi 2, and they're also going to do a ShangChi Disney Plus series. Shocker, right? But it's cool nonetheless that we're going to get another ShangChi, so I cannot wait to see where they go with the story for this. I'm looking forward to it. So that's my list of all the comic book movies that we got in 2021. Now, again, your list might be a lot different than mine, and that is cool. There is nothing wrong with your list being different than mine and mine being different than yours. The fact is that we love these movies, we have fun with these movies, and that is the most important thing. Now, 2022 is shaping up to be a huge year for comic book movies. We're looking at 10 different titles coming out in 2022. I mean, we've got Thor and Love and Thunder, The Batman, The Marvels, Morbius, Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Black Adam, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, The Flash, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. That is a long list of comic book movies. Hopefully nothing messes that up and we get to see all those awesome movies in the theater. So the question is, where do all these movies rank with you? Let me know in the comments down below. Which one was your favorite? Let me know in the comments down below. And it doesn't matter if it's the same as mine or not. I'm not going to be offended whatsoever. So let me know what you think in the comments down below.